So we see the sons of Abinadab drave the new cart, and they brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was at Gibeah, accompanying the ark of God, and Ahio went before the ark. And David and all the house of Israel played before the Lord on all manner of instruments made of fir wood, even on harps and psalteries, and on timbrels, and on cornets, and on cymbals. And when they came to Nachos threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God, and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God smote him there for his error, and he died by the ark of God. And David was displeased because the Lord had made a breach upon Uzzah, and he called the name of that place Peri-Uzzah to this day. And David was afraid of the Lord that day, and said, how shall the ark of the Lord come to me? So David would not remove the ark of the Lord unto him into the city of David, but David carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. When I look at this story, I begin to look at a man who was on his way somewhere. He had pre-planned his way of getting there by gathering together 30,000 chosen men of Israel. He took them over to the place where the ark was, and they got the ark, and they began to make their way to Jerusalem. But before they could even really get out of the city, the ark was shaken. But once they reached this threshing floor, and Uzzah reached out his hand and touched the ark to keep it from falling, and right then God smote him and killed him dead. At that point, David felt that there's no way that this ark must come to me at this time, because this has taken place. He found himself at a detour, and he didn't understand why this was happening to him right now. He didn't understand. He said he planned it out so well. They came in and they worshiped the Lord, and they built a new cart. It didn't ride on a cart that something else rode on it. It was on a new cart. He planned it out. He said he went and got 30,000 chosen men of Israel, because the ark belonged to Israel. So he knew that if he had what he needed, that all he had to do was just go get the ark and take it home. His route was planned out. His idea was planned out. He knew exactly how he was going to get there, but for some reason he found himself at a detour. So I asked myself, so what is it that was so great that he wanted the ark home? We understand that the ark was the item that stood in the most holy place in the sanctuary. And the ark was the place where God's power dwelled between the cherubims. And we understand that it was only on the Day of Atonement that they could even go near the ark, and it was only the high priest that could go in by the ark and drip the blood there for the sacrifices for the atonement of the sins of the land, of the people. And so as he went back home, he began to think and wonder, Lord, how can I bring your presence home? What can I do to bring your presence home? I thought I had it all together. I had the 30,000 men. I had everything together. You know, I had to look at his journey, because his journey wasn't a long way. Because the amount of space he had to go from Bela to Jerusalem was only 18.3 kilometers, which is the equivalent of 18.4 miles. That's all of the distance that he had to travel to get the ark to the house. All he had to do was get 11.4 miles to the house. That's all he had to do. But the thing is that if it was not the will of God right then, he was not going to make it that 11.4 miles. Sometimes we have planned things out. We have put it together. We've packed our clothes and our bags. We got our airplane ticket and we got everything together. We got our passports or whatever we're going to do. And when we head on to the airport, for some reason the plane is delayed. While you're trying to get there. I don't know where your there is this morning, but David's there was back in Jerusalem with the Ark of the Covenant. And he had already tried to make the trip, and the trip failed. So he began to look at this thing, and he had to check it out for himself. Because, you know, one reason why David had to look at it was because of the fact that it was something that he decided to do. So when we find out where we want to go, when we find out where our there is, the first thing we have to do is pray about it. We have to pray first. So David had to go back and pray. He had to go back to the drawing board. He had to begin to look and find out what it was that made things so different about this particular travel. The reason why God didn't allow him to bring the ark home. The thing was is that David had not done his homework. David may have made a new cart for the ark, but the thing was is that the ark was not supposed to be brought on a cart. It was supposed to be carried, and it couldn't be carried by anybody. It had to be carried by a Levite. As he began to study even more, he found out that he had to also have the descendants of Aaron. In order to bring the ark, he found out it wasn't the 30,000 chosen men that he chose. He needed nothing but a Levite, some Levites, and some descendants of Aaron. Sometimes we pack all kinds of things for our trips, and we put all kinds of things in our bags, and when we get there, we can't even use half of it because that's not even what we needed. Have you ever gone somewhere and you packed all kinds of shorts, and when you got there it was cold as I don't know what? Or you got somewhere and you figured that it was going to be cold, and you packed all of these warm clothes and coats, and when you got there it was hot as I don't know what? And you were unprepared for your destination. You didn't do enough study and enough research on your there to find out what the climate was going to be when you got there. So when you got to where you were trying to get, you were unprepared to do what you had to do when you got there. Figured you were going to go shopping and you left your MasterCard at home. Unprepared for your destination. Where is your there? David had to do his research. He had to look and see what it was that he had done wrong. He began to realize that the problem was that he didn't have things set up the proper way. Even though he went and got 30,000 men, how is it that 30,000 men and 11.4 miles cannot be accomplished in one day? Unless it's not the will of God. So he had to understand the correct way to transport the ark of God, because the ark of God meant power. So you have to understand that you can't just take the ark of God and do whatever you want to do with it, because the ark of God was the literal presence and power of God. So you have to look at this thing in a whole different kind of way, in a whole different kind of light, in a whole different kind of manner. You can't handle it any old kind of way. There are specific things that you have to do. If you are an electrician and you had to go and work on an electrical rig, you would have to understand the proper things to do in order to stay alive while you're around that thing until you're through doing your job. If you come with the wrong artillery or with the wrong utensils or with the wrong tools, you can touch the wrong thing and find yourself dead in front of that generator. You have to understand, you need to look at what you're doing before you get to your there. How can I get there if I don't first look at what I'm doing? After he prayed and he began to study, he began to find out the things that he had done wrong with trying to transport the ark. He began to understand that this wasn't something that you play with. There was a point where Israel had to go to war with the Philistines. The Philistines came and whooped their tails. And then they went back home and they came to get them again. And this time the Israelites said, well, we're going to be bad. We're going to bring the Ark of the Covenant out this time. We're going to bring the ark out, and when we get out there with this, then you know that there's no way that we're going to lose this battle. And they got out there, and they just took the ark with them, and they lost the battle again. And the Philistines took the ark. They took it from them. 1 Samuel chapter 5, verse 1. They took the ark. Watch this. 1 Samuel chapter 5, verse 1. And the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it from Ebenezer unto Ashdod. And when the Philistines took the ark, they brought it into the house of Dagon. You understand that Dagon was their god. It was a god that they served. And they brought the ark of God, of the real God, and placed it in a temple of a fake god. They didn't only place it in the temple with the fake god. It says, and when they arose in the morning, they found their God down on his face in front of the ark. They picked it up, put it right back beside the ark, and when they came back the next day, they found it not only falling down, but the head was broken off and the arms too. There's sometimes that God is trying to tell you something. You cannot play with God. You can't just take God and do whatever you want to do with him and play him with him like he's just some little dolly. You cannot play with God. This is the real deal. They brought the Ark of the Covenant and set him beside a fake God, and they thought that if they just had all of these gods together that they could do well, but they didn't understand that you cannot play with God. God is not equal to no other God because there's only one God, and that is Jesus. One God. So they sit him beside their God, and they find them all broken up and messed up. The people in the city started getting tumors and dying. Folks were getting sick all over the place. So sick that they began to move it from place to place. We're going to get it out of here. They began to move it to another one of their cities, and the people in that city started dying. They took it out of that city and took it to another city, and the people there started dying. They took it to another city, the people there started dying. Then they said, we got to take this thing back to Israel. Because it doesn't belong to us. By 1 Samuel chapter 7, verse 1, they had sent it back. And I'm going to tell you, they didn't carry it back. They took the ark and they put it on a cart that was driven by some cows, and had the cows walk it back up there. They said, if something else happened, I don't want to have nothing else to do with it. The only way we're going to get this mess off of our land, the only way we're going to get God's hand off of us is to be able to give the ark back. You can't play with God. When God's specific with the way you ought to do something, you have to be specific with the way you do it. If God tells you to walk out the door and turn right, you don't walk out, turn left, and then turn right. You just might get hit by a car. Because when God is specific with what he tells you to do, you need to be specific with going out and doing what he said. So he began to understand as he studied that this ain't nothing to play with. Not only that, even the Israelites, they didn't understand what to do with it, died. Over at Beth Shemesh, there were over 70 of the Israelites that went to look in the ark, and 70 Israelites died in front of the ark. You don't play with God. Something that you don't touch. And what's so awesome about it is because when the ark was in transition like this, understand that God didn't have his full presence inside the ark at that time. I'm going to tell you the reason why. Because he wouldn't allow himself to be handled that way. So the problems that they were finding off was simply from the residue that was left on the ark. What is residue? Residue is what's left over after something has left. God's anointing and power had been in the ark so long that when he removed himself, there was nothing but the residue of his power, and the residue was so strong that even looking at the ark, people would fall dead. Just from the residue. Imagine if you just ask God to use the residue that was in your house for when he was there before so strong, and it seems like he's there now. Sometimes you find yourself in a situation, sometimes you just need to ask God, Lord, can you just reactivate the residue in this house? Can you come in and make this thing go around like you did before? Can you bless me like you did in times past? Lord, can you just reactivate the residue in the room? Can you do something like you did before? I know the power is still here because you were here so long. And even if you're left, I know you can reactivate the residue. Reactivate the power in the room. So the next thing you do, after you've prayed and you've studied and you've asked God, Lord, show me what I need to do. Because see, David sat down and he looked at this thing. He says, I got to understand what it is and how to transport this thing. He even went back and looked at the Battle of Jericho. And he looked at how Joshua handled the thing. He saw that the Levites were carrying the ark and the people were behind and the soldiers in front. And he saw how they followed specific instructions. God told him, he said, go out there and march around the city and march around it. I want you to march around it every day, one time. But on the last day, march around 7 times. And on the 7th time, then I want you to blow your trumpets and yell it with your voice. But until then, don't say a word. Don't give a war cry. Don't say nothing until I tell you to shout. And then when I tell you to shout, then you shout. Specific in his directions. Followed his directions to a T. And when they followed his directions to the T and they did exactly what he said and they blew the trumpets and they yelled with a loud voice, the walls of Jericho came tumbling down. Some of y'all have some walls that you need tumbling down today, but you haven't followed the instructions yet. Trying to get to your there. You're almost there. I don't know what it is that you're trying to get to. You may be in the midst of a financial mess, and you know if you could just get a little bit farther, that God is going to fix it. You're almost there. You might have a sickness in your body, and you feel like it's going away, but it's still finding itself kindling in there. Just understand that you're almost there. God has this thing under control. You're almost there. Almost there. Almost there. Have you ever been so low in money 2 days before payday You got a fourth of a tank of gas. And you got to be able to go across town and back home for 2 more days before your direct deposit comes in. You don't even have enough money to rob Peter to pay Paul, and you're standing out there wondering, what in the world am I going to do? I'm this close to my there, and I can't even see it clearly because I don't have enough money to get where I got to go. I don't even have what it takes to get where I got to go, but somewhere in the midst of me trying to get there, God brought me to my there. 2 days from a paycheck, and I can't even see enough food in the refrigerator, enough gas in the car, enough what I need to make it through. They're going to cut off the lights tomorrow, and I don't get paid till the day after. What am I going to do? But I know that God will take me to my there. So once you've studied it, then you got to aim high. You prayed about it. Now you got to aim high. How did David aim high? This is how David aimed high. David went to go get an ark that God didn't send him to get. How do you go get something that is ordained, directed, blessed, and covered by God without him telling you to go get it? He aimed high because he understood is if he could go get the ark, that God's anointed power would be in the land. So I began to look at the study, and he received word that, you know, Obed-Edom, the house where you took the ark. I'm going to tell you something about this. They took the ark to Obed-Edom's house. Obed-Edom was not even he wasn't a descendant of Aaron, nor was he a Levite. But the ark was at his house, and he was getting blessed. You don't have to be a particular type of person for God to break in and give you a blessing. You don't have to be a particular person to get a breakthrough. But it was at Obed-Edom's house, and Obed-Edom's house began to get blessed. It said everything that he owned, not only him, but everything that was connected to him. It was so much power in his blessing that he was blessed. His family was blessed. The people who were connected to his family were blessed. I even think the houses that were next to him were blessed because it was in the vicinity. Sometimes you got to look at things and wonder how it is that God functions. Because sometimes when you're on your way to your there, and you got other people who are with you, because Obed-Edom was just simply going along with him, they get blessed before you get blessed. David could have wondered and complained, how is it that he got his blessing before I got mine? I'm the one who got the 30,000 men. I'm the one who's the king. I'm the one who went out there and did what I was supposed to do. But you're going to bless Obed-Edom. So he had to aim high. When you find out what your there is, you need to aim high. Stop aiming low. Lord, I need a car. My car breaking down. Stop going to the used car dealership. Go to the new car dealership. They almost giving them away right now. Stop aiming low. Start aiming high. Stop putting in applications for beginner positions. Try to go to the top from the beginning. Aim high. Because when God is in control, it doesn't matter who it is that sits behind the desk. It doesn't matter who it is that pushes the pencil and has the executive on the front of their plate. It doesn't matter who it is. All you have to do is fill out the application, and God will do the rest. Aim high. Stop trying to get those little penny ante jobs and look for God to give you what you need. Let's go to McDonald's. Y'all have any applications? No, we are out. So then we leave and go over to Burger King. Y'all got any applications? You're overqualified. But then you leave and you say, well, I tried everywhere else. Let me go to Bank of America. I ain't got no business in there. Fill out the application. They say, you're hired. You say, no, wait. Let me have that back. Let me show you something. I might not be qualified because I tried at McDonald's and they wouldn't hire me. I went to Burger King and they wouldn't hire me. How is it that I walk here in the Bank of America and you want to hire me? Maybe God has stepped in and done something in the midst of your stare. Even when you thought things weren't going to work out, maybe God said, I'm going to step in and show you who I am. You need to aim high sometimes. Stop aiming so low, because when you serve a God who owns a cattle on 1,000 hills, you need to ask God for what you need. Lord, I don't just need a ride, I need a car. Lord, I don't just need some shoes, give me some Nikes. Give me some Jordans. You need to aim high. Serving a God who has the power, and we always sit there and ask him for the smaller. Lord, if you just give me some water to drink. And the Lord wants to give you a whole meal. Stop aiming so low. Aim high. Because we serve such a mighty God that all you have to do is ask. Follow his instructions and his directions, and it will work out. Some of y'all like the vegans that try and make a cake taste like a real cake without no sugar. It ain't gonna work. You gotta follow the recipe if you want it to taste that way. So that means that if you're a vegan, you just can't have it. God telling you to mix in this and mix in that to be able to get where you got to go. But Lord, I don't want to do none of this. I don't want to do none of that. I don't want to tell nobody about you. Lord, I don't want to step in here and talk about your name. You know, sometimes, I've found myself in greater positions just from going in and talking to people, having conversations. But sometimes it just starts, boy, God is so awesome. That sun is shining today, and it could be raining and pouring down, and then people listen to what you say and say, man, I got an opportunity I want to offer you. But I'm not afraid to tell somebody about God. He said, if you're ashamed of me, I'll be ashamed of you. Don't find yourself out there not saying, Lord, I need you to bless me, but I don't want to talk about you. Lord, I need you to work things out, but I don't want to tell nobody how good you are. Lord, I need you to work stuff out for me, but I don't want to talk about how great you can be. About the doors you've opened up, about the storms that you've calmed. Aim high. Say, Lord, I'm looking for you to open up this door. The one that my family say can't be opened. The one that my friends say ain't no way you're going to get through. The one that they say you'll never reach. I want you to aim high at that direction where you think that you can't get. God will make you a CEO and you won't even have a degree. So we've got to, number one, pray first. Second, we've got to aim high. Because we can't expect God to bring us a breakthrough if we don't believe he has the ability. Lord, I'm just trying to get here. If you can get me over there, I'm standing right here, and all I'm trying to do is get over there. That's all David was doing. He had 11.4 miles to go, and he couldn't even get that far because he was not prepared. $11.4 miles is all he had. last but not least, you have to stay focused. Keep your eyes on your destination. I was on my way to a destination on the other day, and I was driving down Pleasant Run Road. As I was driving down Pleasant Run Road, I found myself coming to the intersection at Pleasant Run and 35. When I came to the intersection at Pleasant Run and 35, I saw flashing lights everywhere. I was in a lane where I could not turn left, nor could I turn right, because I wanted to go across the freeway to make a left. I sat there for almost 20 minutes before they let me get over, go back this way, and go all the way back around, down Polk and up Wintergreen, just to get back to 35. To find out that there was just some kind of police activity going on. But the thing was is that I knew where I was going. I could almost see my there from where I was, but I could not get there because there was some kind of obstruction in my way. It wasn't meant for me to go that direction. I stayed focused on my destination, but I couldn't get there because I wasn't prepared to go through what I had to go through to get there. So I had to get in the other lane, work my way around, and take a detour. Sometimes, just like David had to do, you have to find yourself a detour to get to your there. Because the way you're going is not the direction that God ordained for you to make it there. So you got to stay focused. David was so focused that he knew what he was going to do. You got to stay focused. Once there was a man who needed to feed his family. The man knew his family was hungry, and all he had was an old rifle and 3 bullets. So he took his old rifle and said he was going to go out and hunt and find his family a meal. So he went out and he saw a rabbit, and he aimed at the rabbit and shot, and the rabbit jumped out of the way. So the man had 2 bullets left, and he kept on walking. And he saw a squirrel, and he aimed at the squirrel, and he shot, and the squirrel got out of the way. By this time, he only had 1 bullet left. He said, I got to make this one count. So he looked, and he saw this turkey. And a little voice came to him and said, pray first, aim high, and stay focused. So the man, as he was pointing at the turkey, he saw a deer come by. So he brought the rifle down and pointed it toward the deer. And a little voice said to him, pray first, aim high, and stay focused. At that moment, he heard a rattling of a rattlesnake. He looked down, and it was standing right in between his legs, about to bite him. His mind told him to point the gun down at the snake. But a small voice told him, pray first, aim high, and stay focused. He didn't know what else to do but to follow the voice of Jesus. He aimed his gun high. He stayed focused. He said, Lord, I'm in a bad situation. My family is hungry. I'm about to get bit by a rattlesnake. And I ain't got but one bullet left. So he aimed high and he shot. And the bullet hit the turkey. Ricocheted off the turkey and hit the deer. The gun was so old that the butt of the gun broke off and hit the snake in the head. It was so much inertia that he flew back and fell into a pond. When he got up, there were fish in his pockets. The turkey was dead, and the deer was dead, and the snake was dead. See, there comes a point that sometimes you got to stop, pray first, aim high, and believe God to do what he said he's gonna do. Just like David. David came out. He put on a linen ephod, which was the clothing of a priest. He took off his royal robe, put on the clothes of a worshiper, made it all the way to Obed-Edom's house. He called him some Levites and some descendants of Aaron. And he got to Obed-Edom's house, got things prepared and ready. He said, I need the Levites to carry the ark. I need the descendants of Aaron to follow on the front and on the back. And it says, watch this, watch this, watch this. It says here, 2 Samuel chapter 6. See, a lot of y'all have heard this preached other ways, but I'm going to show something to you. Chapter 6. Looking at verse 13. Looking at verse 12. And it was told King David, saying that the Lord had blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that pertaineth unto him because of the ark of God. So David went and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with gladness. But watch this. And it was so that when they had bare the ark of the Lord and gone 6 paces, he sacrificed oxen and fatlings. And David danced before the Lord with all his might, and David was girded with a linen ephod. Watch this. Most people, when they preach it, they tell you that he started dancing when he got to the place of Jerusalem. But if you notice, it says after they took 6 steps, they were at Obed-Edom's house. They picked up the ark and they went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They stopped 6 paces away from Obed-Edom's house. Because he knew that once he took 6 paces, that he was on his way to his there. 6 paces. He began to put down the sacrifices, and he made sacrifices unto the Lord. And then it says that David danced with all of his might. David danced 11.4 miles from where he was all the way into Jerusalem. He knew that God had the power to give him what he needed. 11.4 miles. He praised his way all the way to his there. Sometimes you have to find out what it is that God wants you to do. Say, Lord, I need you to take me to my there. My there is not far from here. So, Lord, as I start my way, I'm going to pray first and ask you, Father, to lead me along my way. Lord, I'm going to aim high because my destination is not one that's easy to make it to. And then I'm going to stay focused on you, because you have the power to get me from my here to my there. I don't know what it is that you need right now, but God is about to make things happen for you. You need to start believing God for your miracle. You need to start believing God for your storm to be calm. You need to start believing God to step into your house and make things all right. You need to start believing God to move when you need him to move, because there are things that you can't do on your own. When you pray first and you aim high and you stay focused, God's got it. God has got it. God has got it. Can't nobody do me like Jesus. Can't nobody do me like the Lord. Can't nobody do what God can do, because he is my friend. Even though you've seen some storms and you've seen some trials and some tribulations, hold on to his unchanging hand. He'll step right in where he thought he couldn't step in. There's another thing that you need to look at. When God moves, everybody else gets out of the way. There is power in the name of Jesus. Sometimes you just have to say, Lord, I love you. Lord, I bless you. Lord, I praise you, because you're worthy. Every now and then you'll find yourself in the middle of a storm that you can't calm, but God is able to say, peace, be still. Step in where he needs to step in, because no weapon formed against you shall prosper, because he is Jesus. He is your God, and he's able to take care of everything. I don't know how long we got to stand and wait and keep looking and know that God is in control. We got to stop and just fellowship with him and say, Lord, I thank you. If you can just get me from here to my there. David praised his way all the way home. They looked at him like he was crazy. He was a king in priest clothing, shouting all the way down the road. Sometimes people gonna look at you crazy. They gonna wonder why you in the bank shouting when your limit is higher than what you thought it was. They gonna find you in your car worshiping, wondering what's wrong with them. Something wrong with that lady. She must have Tourette's syndrome. No, it's just because God has been so good to me. When I think of the goodness of Jesus and all that he's done for me, my soul cries out, hallelujah. Sometimes you just got to stop and praise his name. Folks will look at you crazy and wonder what's wrong with you. They'll say you didn't take your Prozac this morning. They'll say you didn't take your Thorazine. They say you might be having a seizure. But you'll just say it's because Jesus has been so good to me. Folks gonna say something wrong with you. You say, no, it's not, because Jesus has been so good to me. Folks gonna say that you ain't worth it. Something wrong with you. You need to leave. You say, no, it's because Jesus has been so good to me. Pray first. Aim high. And stay focused. You're almost there. You're almost there. I know there's somewhere you got to get to, but you're almost there. Say, Lord, everything is falling apart at home. Lord said, no, you're almost there. Father, I feel like I'm so sick that I might not make it. Lord said, Just hold on. You're almost there. Say, Lord, my finances are so low. I got paid Friday and I'm already broken. I got 2 weeks to go. How am I going to make it? He said, don't worry. You're almost there. You say, Lord, I can't stop crying. Storms keep coming in my life. And I don't know how to get out of where I am. But Lord says, don't worry. You're almost there. He said, you just need to wipe those tears from your eyes and believe in me, because you're almost there. Doctor said that you might not make it, and you turned and said, I serve a risen Savior who's in the world today. And God turns around and tells you, you're almost there. Just keep on serving me. Lord, I'm trying to raise my kids and they seem to be going every which way. He said, don't worry, keep on holding on. You're almost there. Lord, I can't get off these drugs and there's nothing else I can do. He said, don't worry about it. You're almost there. He says, I got a breakthrough for you. You're almost there. Sometimes there are things that people have to receive all types of counseling and all types of help from other people, but God said, don't worry, I got it this time. You're almost there. I'll be your counselor. I'll be your lawyer. Some of y'all waiting on court cases to be decided. God said, don't worry, I got it. You're almost there. Some of y'all waiting to find out your results from the doctor. Lord said, don't worry about it. You're almost there. You might have took the blood test yesterday. God has already fixed the blood. Don't worry about it. I don't know who you are, but God's speaking to you right now. Don't worry about it. You're almost there.